And our meeting tonight is now open for sharing testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Nancy from New Jersey, go ahead.
Good evening. I wish to express my gratitude for the beautiful readings and music tonight, and I'm very grateful for all of the resources that are so freely provided to us by the Plainfield Church. Tonight, I would especially like to express my gratitude for the Sunday School webpage. It's really a wonderful resource filled with prayers and materials for children covering many different topics. Last week, I had the opportunity to spend a few days with my grandchildren. And while I was visiting, one of my granddaughters took me aside and she asked me if I would talk to her about how to not be afraid, as she was going to have to be getting some shots soon before returning to school, and she was very worried about this. I was so grateful for this opportunity to talk to her about how God loves her and is always with her, protecting and caring for her. I told her that she could talk to God at any time, just like she was talking to me, and that he would always hear her and that he would send her thoughts to comfort and to help her. She was very receptive and happy to hear this, and she told me that she felt much better already. Now, I never asked her when she was going for the shots, and I didn't think about our conversation much again until this morning, when I got a very strong angel thought to check out the Plainfield Sunday School website and see if there was something there that I might share with her. I found a beautiful prayer given by Mrs. Roberts, which reads, quote, "I am God's child. Because he is all good, I am all good. Whenever I become aware of anything that makes me not feel good, I pray and work to know that it is not really me. I know that, for example, being fearful is not something from God, so I will know this until the feeling of fear fades away. I am compassionate, kind, funny, patient, beautiful, and confident. God is with me wherever I go, and he loves me." I immediately copied it and sent it to her. A short while later, she contacted me to thank me and told me that not only did it really help her, but she received it just 15 minutes before she had to go for her appointment. I had no idea that she was going today, but God did. As it states in hymn number 9, he knows the angels that we need and sends them to our side to comfort, guard, and guide. I was guided by his angel thought to send her that prayer at just the perfect time, and she was guarded and comforted by it. I am so grateful for this proof of God's love and care. I'm so grateful to God, so grateful to my practitioner for her loving support. I'm so grateful to this church and its members and for this meeting tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Luann from New York, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to say how grateful I am for Christian Science, my practitioner, and all that I've been given since I became a member of this church. Sometimes it's hard to describe the healings that have taken place because my heart is so full, and I feel if I open it up just a little bit, it will all come pouring out. One thing for sure, heart and soul, Christian Science heals every human woe. Places I've been, the experiences I've had, have all disappeared in the morning sun. And now I found a home and a family and a true and loving Father. Who could ask for anything more? Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry from California, go ahead.
Thank you. Mary Baker Eddy writes in her book, Christian Healing, "If you wish to be happy, argue with yourself on the side of happiness. Take the side you wish to carry, and be careful not to talk on both sides. or to argue stronger for sorrow than for joy. During a particular challenging time, joy seemed to leave me quite often. A practitioner from this church taught me to claim for myself many facts in Christian Science that were the truth about me, including the one regarding happiness. So I began to do that. Also during this time, there was a task I knew I must complete, and I did not feel I could do it. And then from within me came that wonderful voice, I will do it. Well, of course, it is God that worketh in me. I am never alone doing anything myself, which is something that I must continually remind myself. So I prayed, Father, let my hands be thy hands, and began the task. I had done this task many times before, but never in the way it was being completed this time. All was going well until at one point there was doubt creeping in about a final step that was going to be taken. I hesitated for quite a long time. Then I said aloud, God, I hope you know what you're doing. And with that, from within me came a burst of laughter that could not be contained. I could not stop laughing at what I had said. I could feel the joy within me again. It felt so good. I had missed feeling my sense of humor, and I was so grateful and happy while finishing the task at God's direction. And of course, it turned out better than it ever had before. Things are made right when we put God first. Always. I use this experience now before I do anything, not just with putting God first, but also claiming the joy that goes with it. I am so very grateful for Christian Science and for the necessary provisions Mrs. Eddy gave to support us in this journey. One being the provision of practitioners, and also the provision of these Wednesday evening meetings where we all come together for the wonderful purpose of gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim from Arizona, go ahead.
Good evening. I wish to express my gratitude for the authors of our lesson sermons. This week's lesson is especially important. I must admit that while studying it, tears appeared in my eyes. Thank you for these wonderful lessons.
Thank you. Joanne from Florida, go ahead.
I want to thank God for his incredible protection and practitioner for her healing prayer. Early yesterday morning, I fell down a full flight of stairs, banging my head on the tiled floor at the bottom. The whole way down, I continually declared, God good. Amazingly, no bones were broken, but I was badly bruised and very dizzy and shaken up. After my husband helped me up, I immediately emailed a practitioner here for help. Then I sat and studied our textbook, Science and Health, by Mary Baker Eddy, pages 390 to 393, which helped to calm me down. Shortly, I heard from the practitioner who told me to pray with the 91st Psalm and know that angels bear me up. Later, she told me to study 2 pages in Science and Health, one being page 424, where it says, accidents are unknown to God or in mortal mind. She also told me to handle daily the beliefs of accidents and age, and to revisit in Watches, Prayers, Arguments by Mary Baker Eddy all the things that Mrs. Eddy says to handle daily in our thinking. I spent the whole morning doing this and felt peaceful and inspired. Later in the day, I was still having a lot of pain and a headache, so I asked the practitioner to continue to pray for me. This morning, when I awoke, the headache was completely gone, and I was able to move much more freely and even take my morning walk without a limp. I am so grateful for the healing and the deep lesson in the importance of consistent daily prayer in handling the aggressive suggestions of accident and old age. I couldn't have learned this anywhere else. I'm so grateful to God and to the practitioner for this healing. I'm grateful to Mrs. Eddy for giving us Christian Science and for membership in this church. And Dede, thank you for those readings.
Thank you. Dede from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm grateful to have come to know God through my study of Christian Science. I feel that since beginning to learn in this church, I was formally introduced to God, became acquainted with Him quickly, and went on to build a loving and trusting relationship with Him. I'm most thankful that I can now honestly and sincerely call Him my very best friend. I know that there is nothing that I can do without Him, and I find comfort daily in knowing that there is nothing that I have to do without Him, because He is always with me and with everyone. Thank you so much for tonight's meeting and for all the testimonies given so far and those still to be given tonight. I'm very grateful to continue to learn in this church, and I'm grateful to be here tonight.
Thank you. Dave from Florida, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I would just like to corroborate my wife's testimony about the fall down the stairs. I was in the other room at the time when I heard a loud crash. I went to look, and she was lying at the foot of the stairs saying, "God good," over and over, and not really moving. She had fallen almost a full flight from the second to the first floor. I immediately went down and helped her up. Thankfully, she had no broken bones, but she had hit her head on the floor and said it hurt. She got help from the practitioner right away. We both spent a lot of time studying and praying yesterday. This morning, she was fine with no aches or the headache, and we took a walk. I have to say it was a scary thing seeing her lying on the floor at the bottom of the stairs, and I'm very grateful for this quick healing. I also want to say that one of the things that both of us discussed with the practitioner was the belief of age and falling down. They push it in ads on TV, and it's an aggressive mental suggestion that needs to be handled. There's no need for it and no truth to it. I'm grateful for the work of the practitioner, to be a member of this church, and for Christian Science. And thank you for those readings.
Thank you. Benjamin.
Yeah, I'm very grateful to be here tonight, and I just want to thank God for the service tonight and all the wonderful testimonies being given tonight. A few days ago, I was at work very early in the morning, performing my task. As I was trying to go down from the one floor to the next floor, I was coming down the stair. It was a little bit dark, so I thought I was at the end of the stair, but I wasn't. And I twisted my ankle. Thank God I was also able to break the fall. But the twist was really, really bad. It was hurting me so bad. It was hard to walk. Then I managed to go back to my post. Then I started, knowing the truth from that moment, and repeating that truth to myself, knowing very well that no pain or suffering can come from doing good. Because that's what I've been taught in this church from the beginning. When you're doing good, and when you are at the place that God wants you to be, God cannot punish you for that. He can only bless you. So I continue to repeat the truth to myself and pay very little attention to the pain that I was feeling that time to my foot. And also I refused to take my shoes off because I didn't want to pay too much attention to it. But I directed my thought to where it belongs to God. And also I knew very well that I was doing God's will. And it can only bless me. The reward can only be blessing. And everyone involved can only be blessed by this word of God that He sent me to do. And as I will continue to repeating the truth to myself, paying less attention to the pain that was going on in my foot, I was able to take some break from my co-workers so that I can rest a little bit. And the truth prevailed. By the end of my shift, the pain was completely gone. I never took my shoes off. I never paid any attention to the pain. By the time I got home, it was like nothing happened. It was completely gone. If it wasn't the word of God, the word of truth, it would have been a different case because I knew exactly what happened to me. But I'm very, very grateful to God for what He has given to us, for Christian Science, and for Mary Baker Eddy, who have given us this revelation that we can be able to apply it to our everyday life. Thank you, everyone, for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Chardell.
Good evening, and thank you for the readings and our beautiful music. I am grateful for learning about going from faith to understanding, as Mary Baker Eddy explains it on page 125 of Science and Health. Quote, as human thought changes from one stage to another of conscious pain and painlessness, sorrow and joy, from fear to hope, and from faith to understanding, the visible manifestation will at last be man governed by soul, not by material sense. This is very beautiful, and I experienced a very lovely event based on this learning. Not long ago, I thought I had lost my little black purse with a great deal of money in it. I used what I thought and pray about in understanding to know I could not lose anything or any supply given by God. I prayed that if I had dropped this little purse, it would be found by someone who needed the money, and perhaps buy food. A few days later, the purse appeared in our apartment in a most unusual place when I was looking for some papers. When the concept of faith to understanding was discussed at the last round table on 7-5, I knew that I had been governed by soul, and it's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig.
I thank God for the music and for the readings, and the fact that God knows everything, and in this work, even though Jonah didn't quite get it first, in this work we're protected and blessed. All of a sudden I thank God. I work with the Article of Day and also Beatitudes, which helps me so much. And it says, Beatitudes, take no thought for tomorrow, but tomorrow will take thought of the things of itself. And he goes on. But I believe and I trust that God is caring for us, and as we do this work and keep His law. Well, I got a letter in the mail saying that it was a good sum of money was coming my way. I had budgeted kind of what I needed for the next couple of months, but all of a sudden some relative was sending some money my way, and I was very grateful about it. Unsurprised though. And then today I realized I got an email from the New Jersey Unemployment Office saying they're sorry that they couldn't give me the information I needed when I was filing my taxes, because I guess this COVID thing, so I could completely fill it out correctly. But now it wasn't there. Well, once they gave me the information, I realized that I needed to pay about a certain amount of money, which is just about what was given by this relative who sent me, their lawyer sent me a letter. And I was thinking, I said, I should be very grateful. God is looking over me and knew what I needed before I needed it. And so I just wanted to give gratitude for His care for us and doing His work. Every need is provided. We just have to do what's right each day.
Thank you. Gary.
Yes, it certainly is wonderful to be learning here in Christian Science how God cares for us in every way. I was thinking recently about an experience I had a while ago. It was in the middle of the night. I woke up with a lot of congestion. And even though I was very tired, I couldn't go back to sleep. I was so congested. Well, as I was praying, I thought of a statement that Mrs. Eddy has written, one of my wife's favorite statements in the article Fidelity in Miscellaneous Writings, that goes, and I quote, "Too soon we cannot turn from disease in the body to find disease in the mortal mind and its cure in working for God," end quote. So I thought to myself, well, what work can I do here in the middle of the night in bed? Well, I could pray. The world needs prayer. So I began to pray for our church, our members, for our community, for our world and our nation. And as I was praying, I could feel God's love, just wrapping His creation in love. And pretty soon I went back to sleep, and I slept soundly that night. And when morning came, I woke up, and the congestion was entirely gone. I was totally healed, and it did not return. And I had a very productive day that day. So I'm very grateful for this healing, for this experience. I'm grateful for Mary Baker Eddy for doing what she did, everything she did to give us this science of Christianity. I'm grateful to be a member of this church and to be with all of you here tonight. And thank you, Dede, for those fine readings tonight.
Thank you. Linda.
Thank you very much for the readings tonight and the music. I want to express my gratitude to be learning the healing power of Christian Science at this church, where it's correctly taught and lived. Since coming to Plainfield Church, working with a practitioner here, and attending classes, my life has been greatly blessed and transformed. Now I take time with God in the morning, use prayers I have learned here during the day, and I'm working to live its principles daily in my life. During a move I was making to a new home, I started to have painful gums. It hurt to chew, and the area was tender to touch.
I took this time to be more alert to where my thought was and to slow down and to take more time in prayer and not to lose my peace. I was told by my practitioner not to lose my peace. I recalled a past healing I had here of gum problem, and when I brushed my teeth, I reminded myself of a short little prayer that I was taught here, that my teeth were rooted and grounded in love. I made sure that I was not rushing around and took time to have quiet time, and I worked with the definition of man found in Science and Health by Mary Baker Eddy, and also page 390 to 393 in Science and Health. During this time, I was getting regular practitioner support here, and I had not told her yet of this condition. She was helping me with something else. But it was only a couple days, and the problem cleared up, and the air became normal. This was another example of how the practitioner's work reaches all areas of our lives. It is such a blessing to be witnessing the power of prayer of Christian Science when you turn your life over to His care, God's care, and are learning about Him. Thank you.
Thank you. Betty from California, go ahead.
Good evening, and thank you for the readings tonight and the music as well. I wish to express my gratitude for the Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent. Very grateful for the church website, services, roundtables with such wonderful teaching, and for all the opportunities to work for God through the church activities, like proofing periodicals or reading a testimony from prose works during the Sunday service, to writing on the forum or doing a Bible study. I am very grateful for these opportunities, both for service to God and for growth in Christian Science. And I'd like to add a little side note about the sharing of testimony. Some weeks ago, someone shared a testimony of healing of a painful hip. And this helped me to see that I needed to deal with an occasional pain in my hip. So every time it tried to crop up, I would say I am ageless, diseaseless, and deathless because God made me so. And now that pain is no longer, and I'm so grateful for that testimony. Thank you for the service tonight and for the practitioner help over the years. I'm very happy to be here tonight.
Thank you. Jeremy.
I was recently reminded of the lesson I've learned about how loyalty to anyone or anything but God is so detrimental. So I wanted to give a testimony on that. All my life before coming to Plainfield, I would have people in my life that I was loyal to. And in the course of trying to do what I felt was the loyal thing to do, it would often conflict with what I felt was the right thing to do. At the time, I thought it was necessary to put aside my own feelings and concerns so I could just do the loyal thing. But each time I did this, it always ended very poorly. Once I started studying Christian Science here, I learned how we are to be loyal to God alone. And since the other way obviously wasn't working, I've done my best to see what the benefit of being loyal to God could be. Over the years, it has become very clear to me that as He is the one and only power and truth and love in existence, God knows exactly why He created each of us. He knows what our purpose and place are, and He knows what makes us happiest and most useful. It's so wonderful to know that now and to have that very clear picture. So I'm just very grateful for Christian Science and for this church, for practitioner support all along the way. That has helped me to start living the life God has made for me. I'm grateful also to know He will bring all to Him in the same way. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon.
Last year, I was looking for a new home with the help of a member of this church who is a realtor. I asked a practitioner for support, and I was told God had a good plan for me. I quickly found a place that I loved. Practitioner said God's plan was unfolding and she would support it. I made an offer, but it was not accepted. Someone had made a higher offer. Practitioner said maybe it would fall through, but I said no because it was a cash offer. I found another place and made an offer, but it was not accepted. I decided I was going to wait before looking at more places because I thought I had some lessons to learn. Practitioner said I was in God's hand. It was in God's hands. Within a couple of days, after more prayer, my offer on the place I loved was accepted. The other deal fell through. When I told the practitioner the good news, I reminded her she said the other offer might fall through. She said when I was willing to give it up to God, His plan unfolded. What God had for me was mine, and she knew this was right for me. I thank God for the unfolding of His plan, the lessons learned, and practitioner help.
Thank you. This is Bruce. As I was reading the lesson this week, I came across the passage in our responsive reading that says, "Restore unto me the joy of thy salvation." And it was a reminder to me that we do have a wonderful divine salvation, and it is a joyous one. And I remember many years ago, I was talking to a practitioner on the phone, and we were discussing one issue after another, and she was commenting on the things that needed to be taken up, and it was like many issues. And the practitioner must have sensed that I was starting to get a little depressed over the whole thing, and she came right out and said, "You know, you don't have to get down on yourself because of these things. Don't you know that your name is written in heaven?" Well, that really brought me up. And even though we've got things to face and things need resolution, and we need to find the answer to the issues, none of this is without joy. And I don't remember the specific items we were talking about, but I do remember that when I hung up that phone, I found my joy again with her help. Thank you. And it also taught me a lesson. It doesn't matter what picture error puts in front of you. It cannot take your joy or your spiritual power or your connection with God or your ability to listen to Him and find a resolution. So, I'm thanking God tonight. Restore unto me the joy of our salvation. It's quite a wonderful thing. Thank you. Florence from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. I have a testimony from France. It says, last year I received the great news that my office partner and his wife were expecting a baby. In September, on a Monday, if I recall it right, the water of the expectant mother broke and she was rushed to a hospital since she was only in the 21st week of her pregnancy. Several doctors agreed on a judgment and told the couple that there is no hope, there is no way of the membranes healing and the water refilling, especially at this stage of the pregnancy. In 2 days, they were already talking about the baby in past tense. They were told that there will be definitely an operation to remove the baby, but that they will still carry out a few measurements on Friday. When this happened, I kept on declaring that this verdict is impossible and that the Bible says, "Let God be true and every man a liar." Romans 3:4, meaning that all material knowledge and diagnosis are lies in the face of God's truth about this matter. However, I was not able to cope with the suppressed fear and the personal impact the sorrow of my dear friends made on me. On Tuesday, I called a Plainfield practitioner for support in my prayers. She listened and mentioned the prayer Mary Baker Eddy said in the Blue Book, "Thank you, Father, that there is nothing that can come in between you and this little child." For 2 days, I received no different news from my friends, only repetitions of earlier statements. However, I knew that God was working his purpose out. On Thursday, my friend called me that he was in that moment driving home his wife from the hospital, and that she only needed to stay in bed and move around very carefully for a few days. They did not even have to wait for Friday's tests. All was well. I was so grateful for this wonderful demonstration of divine love. This is how, before God, sorrow turns into joy in the moment. What cannot God do? I am so grateful to God for Christian Science and for the practitioner's support. I am happy to say that the little baby arrived at the end of January, perfectly, healthy, and on time. Thank you, Dede, for the beautiful readings tonight. And all I have to say tonight is my gratitude for Christian Science and how over the years it has proven how practical that proverb is: prevention is better than cure. I used to go from gloom to gloom, as many of you may know by now from my testimonies. But it was made clear to me that it is my inner kingdom, my consciousness, which was always out-picturing in my experiences. Therefore, I've learned now to not indulge in wrong thinking. As Mrs. Eddy warns us, stand porter at the door of thought. And this can be more important right now for all that's going on. Once you take in one wrong thought, another one comes, and before you know it, you're going in the wrong direction. But it's wonderful to be so clear on that we have the ability, the power from God to change course and find our freedom and joy, as many testimonies have said tonight. I am so grateful for Christian Science, so deeply grateful for how it can change our life. Happy to be here tonight.
Thank you. Mary.
Okay, we'll start off with the church website bulletin board. First one, thank you for the round table on Sunday, March 29th, 2020, entitled Never Fear What God Did Not Make. In listening to this, I loved your references that were, I think, from the Blue Book. One of the ideas was that the objects of sense are really ideas of soul, and there is no material world apart from the spiritual. It has been such a revelation that continues to grow that we aren't dealing with two things, the material and the spiritual, but only the spiritual. Substance is spirit, not matter. In looking up the word substance in the Merriam-Webster dictionary online, surprisingly, one of the definitions is listed as Christian Science, God sense. I really like the idea that matter is only an incorrect sense, not as something solid that has to be healed. A sense that can be exchanged with God sense. You also mentioned at the round table, whenever we go out, we can declare that we need only spirit today, and that what we are seeing has already been approved and blessed by God. We can take God's sense out with us each day. I love these ideas. Thanks. And then Florida. Thank you for that rousing and beautiful rendition of the Battle Hymn of the Republic. It gave me chills. It was so inspiring. I started to clap at the end of it. even here at home in our living room. Thank you again, dear Faith, Jared, and the chorus. The whole service was such a fitting end to our God-blessed national holiday. And then Pennsylvania. My husband and I have been reading and thinking about an article, No Personality, in the Wilcox Addresses book, starting on page 180. We are finding it very helpful and thank Plainfield Church for sharing it with us and the rest of the world. And this is England. I would like to express gratitude for all the articles and books freely provided to all on the Plainfield website. I can recall saying to a Christian Science friend some years ago, before finding Plainfield, that I had read that Mrs. Eddy was prolific in her writings, so it seemed strange to me that there were not other articles, etc., available besides the, quote, authorized, unquote, books. I am therefore very grateful for the additional material you provide by Mrs. Eddy and the early workers. The Things to Handle Daily article presented on the carousel is very helpful and gives us plenty to do. I would also like to express sincere gratitude for regular practitioner support. A couple of days ago I felt a sore throat starting, and by the evening I was quite congested as well. I declared that I could only experience all that God is, which does not include a cold. I did not speak to my practitioner about this, but could feel her support, and I was most grateful when I woke up in the morning. I was entirely healed. Thank you all for your wonderful work, and much love. And then this was a comment on the YouTube from the round table this past Sunday. This person, I had mentioned this person at the round table, and she's identifying herself. And she says, "Your church conveys such a sincere, loving, and caring attitude that is changing the world. It has certainly changed mine and those I share my learnings with. Though a student of the Bible since a child of about 7 years old, and I could not make sense of it really, I do now. This church, based upon its Christian Science teachings by Mrs. Eddy, I now see the Bible as truly alive and all-powerful over all. My friend said just Friday night, why couldn't I get it until now? This book, Science and Health, is the key that opens up the scriptures and teachings of the words of God. Over the years, I have experienced healings beyond explanation just by studying Science and Health, but would return to other methods and thus set myself back. No more. I wish to give my testimony, and I don't know quite how, because today, July 5th, I awakened to a full and clear hearing from my right ear. Thank you, God. I had tried everything. We can heal our bodies and the world of hatred with this book and return it to love, God's intent. Thank you all." And I would like to thank others, too, that write on our comments on our YouTubes. There's some who write consistently beautiful things. There's a Jerome and a someone else, too. Anyway, I'm very grateful for all of you that write. We appreciate it very much. And this from Canada. Since finding the independent Plainfield Church, I listened with much interest to all your roundtable discussions and heard often how you referred to U.S. history. Now I understand that you were pointing out the golden thread as mentioned. It is a very inspiring concept, and I started to look into the recent things of Europe, where I am originally from, to see how after a horrible war that caused so many victims, former arch enemies became friends. France and Germany, together with the UK, became leader in this reconciliation process and formed the European Union. Only a few decades after World War, borders disappeared. For 450 million people, it is now possible to move, live, and work freely in 27 countries with 24 languages. Another sign of the golden thread is the fall of the Berlin Wall, when Eastern German citizens started to illegally demonstrate every Monday on the streets streets of Leipzig. This became a movement that changed the course of world history. Because it was an atheist regime, only a few congregations still existed. Before the demonstration started, many protesters met and prayed in the few churches, Protestant churches, that still existed in the German Democratic Republic. During this revolution, which brought down a world power, not a single shot was fired, and there was not a single death. I believe a revolution unprecedented. Plainfield always offers so many inspiring thoughts, and I am very grateful for your commitment and hard work. And then, Virginia. Yesterday I woke up early as always to use the restroom and noticed that I could barely walk. I felt pain and something funny going on in my hip area. I got back in bed after making it to the John and immediately turned to a recording of Body 2 by Martha Wilcox on YouTube. I listened, then declared my wellness and thanked God for my wonderful body. I then got out of bed and went to Miscellany by Mary Baker Eddy, which was mentioned in the article. Quote, "My nerves are an emanation of the God mind and express the activity and sensations of infinite mind," end quote. I wrote this out and studied it for a while at my desk, and when I stood up, I felt completely fine and I was walking with no problems. What a wonderful example and much needed encouragement. And I was so grateful this demonstration was so quick and easy. My sincere thanks to my practitioner and this wonderful Christian Science Church. And then, Virginia. There's a lot tonight. Dear fellow members, for the steadfast support, teaching, and love, which is the hallmark of this independent Christian Science Church, I am truly grateful. By the way, I looked up the word hallmark, and it says, a mark to indicate origin, purity, or genuineness. This, I believe, exactly describes this church as it is faithful to God, Christ Jesus, and Mary Baker Eddy's pure revelation of Christian divine science. Enclosed is my monthly contribution. And then finally, Massachusetts. I am thankful for the gift of family. 2 weeks ago, I was blessed with a trip to attend the Sunday services at Plainfield Christian Science Church. That Sunday morning, I awoke with a song in my heart, unaware of the blessings already unfolding. It was so unusual to be greeted with thick fog that morning. A 3-hour journey became a 4+ hour journey. Along the way, the GPS was lost, no internet, fog. I was so grateful that God is my constant connection, my moment-to-moment guide, my best friend. With the COVID shutdown, the road services were minimal. I was so grateful to be led to an open road service and to find Wi-Fi in the building. Taking the directions down by hand on a paper towel, I was off again, aware and grateful for each step of the day that was so perfectly ordered. Arriving late for the round table at the Plainfield Christian Science Church, my place at the table was beautifully prepared. A copy of the lesson sermon, a refreshing bottle of water, and smiles with quiet acknowledgments. I had arrived safely and comfortably. Gratitude filled my heart. The Sunday service was beautiful, the peace was palpable, the light warm and bright, the joy sang out, the love was everywhere, and the welcoming spirit was beyond measure. Being introduced to all attending, it was lovely to see happy, glowing faces enjoying the day and each other. The strong sense of community was easy to be part of. I was very grateful to feel at home, a church home that was most comfortable in all aspects. As I left, I was sent off on wings of love, the day very complete. I am deeply grateful to God for showing me the way home, to Mrs. Eddy, whose footsteps in truth brings us all together, for the early teachers and their early writings,